Good morning, everybody, or evening, whatever time you're watching this. It's about 2:30 for me, and I gotta be at work in 3 hours, so I'll try to make this quick. I've already tried doing this review twice, but the first time my phone glitched out, and the second time when I tried doing this in my car, the car light went out. So hopefully it's third time's a charm. Fingers crossed, but I don't know if something still goes wrong, then I'm probably just going to break this up in two parts. I don't know. So I just got back from seeing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I guess just to start off, I will admit I probably made my expectations a little bit too high, but it's partly the movie's fault, or at least the marketing. But there's some parts that are my fault still. So start off with like all the characters are pretty great. Like Doctor Strange is a little bit wiser than he was in the first film. He knows a lot more spells, especially when he fights his evil self later in the film. Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch. She does a really good job in playing the villain, like bouncing back from villain in Age of Ultron to hero in the Avengers films, and then like villain again in this movie and WandaVision. And like one of the best things about a villain is when like their motivations are understandable. Like even Thanos, right? Yes, what he did was wrong, but from where he was coming from, like his whole planet died, and like that kind of twisted his mind into thinking that like he should just exterminate 50% of all life. So to a degree, you can kind of understand his argument about like overpopulation. You just don't agree with his actions, right? And that's kind of how Wanda is in this film. Wong was Wong. They really lived up to the Sorcerer Supreme comment that was made during No Way Home. I thought it was just going to be a throwaway joke, but like they actually committed to that, so good on them. America Chavez, I'll be honest, I was originally not gonna like. I was already set on not liking her, and that was just because of the things I heard about her character in the comics. And I'll admit I haven't seen I haven't read a Marvel comic in a very long time, because well I heard that it went to shit, and that was the America Chavez comic included. But the character was actually pretty good in the film. There were a couple times where she was acting like condescending and like knowing more than Strange or Wong. But like she does come to like trust them and like respect them by the end of the film, which is great because I honestly thought that she was gonna be like a Quan Ha 2.0, where if you've seen my Halo TV show, you guys would know that that Quan is like one of the biggest complaints I have of that show. So the characters were pretty good. The directing and writing, I'm really glad that they got Sam Raimi to direct this. I'm a big fan of the Evil Dead films. Sam Raimi's probably one of my two favorite horror movie directors. I really liked his Spider-Man films. And it was really great to see him like direct another superhero movie, because like this was the first one since Spider-Man 3, I believe. So it's nice that he came back into that genre and still put in some like horror movie scenes. And that's the great thing about Sam Raimi, is that like he has a certain style with his films, where it does like a really quick zoom in on like either an object or a person, and has some like really crazy angles. Like in one of the very first shots where it shows Stephen Strange, like it completely rotates the camera around and zooms out when he like jumps out of bed. then and like there are a couple scenes where when Wanda is doing like that dream walking sequence to possess one of her alternate universe doppelgangers, the camera is actually like from her POV, and it's kind of like looking around her doppelganger's house, similar to the Kandarian demon from Evil Dead. Um, and like even the opening fight sequence with Stephen Strange and Wong, like right after Strange comes back from Christine Palmer's wedding, like they go out into the middle of New York to fight this like octopus demon who I'm pretty sure is supposed to be based on the Shuma-Gorath character, but because of legal reasons they couldn't use that actual name. So, but that sequence entirely felt like it was just a love letter to Spider-Man 2. Like, if you go back and watch Spider-Man 2, there's like complete shots in Doctor Strange that are direct parallels to the Spider-Man and Doc Ock fight. That was like throughout New York, where it eventually goes to a train and everything. Unfortunately, they didn't have like a train part in the Doctor Strange movie, but there was a bus. So that whole sequence was great. And like I said before, like it is a Sam Raimi film. Like it, yes, there's a lot of MCU in it, but like you can see just the DNA of Sam Raimi just littered throughout, and like not just with the camera angles and like the sequences that are callbacks to films. Like there's a scene where Strange possesses the body of one of his doppelgangers, and the scene where like he basically busts out of that little tomb that he created, like it's straight out of Army of Darkness when like Evil Ash rises from his grave. And then there's just like the appearance of like zombie Strange and the like just in and of itself, where his face looks almost exactly like the evil Deadite Ash in Army of Darkness. And speaking of horror, like there isn't too much horror elements in the film, which was a little bit disappointing because like Sam Raimi is the director, but then again, like it is PG-13, and it is an MCU film. Like kids are gonna see the movie, so you know. But when the horror kind of scenes like do happen, like they are good. Like Scarlet Witch is basically the main reason why there are any horror movie sequences at all. Like there's a scene where like she's trying to get to America Chavez and Doctor Strange by breaking out the mirror dimension using the reflections in like water and a gong. And when she busts out of one of them, like it looks like a scene straight out of like The Exorcist or The Ring, where like her body is just mangled and dislocated and she's just crawling along the floor. And when she finally stands up, you can actually like hear the bones resetting, which I'm pretty sure like younger kind of kids are gonna probably think that's terrifying. And then like there's there's this whole sequence like later in the film where I guess to step back a little bit. So Strange in America, they travel to this alternate universe that's supposed to be like the best version of all the characters, right? Like there's the shrine to Doctor Strange. There's this group called the Illuminati that Mordo from the last film, like his doppelganger, is a part of. And the Illuminati consists of Professor X, who's played by Patrick Stewart, Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, who's played by apparently it was a fan casting to have John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, and I guess they did that for fan service. So, okay, I didn't know about that. there was Captain Carter. Obviously, she was in the TV spots. They had Lashana Lynch as Captain Marvel instead of Brie Larson. And then they had Black Bolt, who's played by the same guy from the Inhumans TV show. And I was actually surprised at that because I thought that they wanted to bury that show as much as they could. So it was definitely a surprise to see him in the movie, all let alone played by the same actor, Anson Mount, if that's how I pronounce his name. But the entire second act is just in that world with the Illuminati, where they reveal that like their Strange turned evil and like killed Thanos, but to make sure that he wasn't a threat anymore, like they had him killed. So then Wanda possesses her doppelganger on that Earth, or variant doppelganger. I'm still thinking of the CW, Crisis on Infinite Earths, which I will get to soon. She takes over her variant on that Earth, and then that version of Wanda goes to the Illuminati and just slaughters them all. Which this was like another scene that like was more like Sam Raimi, like sort of horror movie-esque, where it's short, but it does go back to like the whole like superhero fighting, where she basically like seals Black Bolt's mouth shut and uses his own power against him that makes him cave his skull in. I'm a little bit surprised with how graphic they allowed that to be. Like, it obviously didn't make his head explode because, like, it's still PG-13. But it still showed, like, his head, like, still inside the mask, like, actually, like, deflate a bit with, like, blood running down his nose before he falls to the ground. And then she just picks up Reed Richards and just shreds him before kind of making his head explode, but it wasn't any blood, so, you know. Then Scarlet Witch cuts Captain Carter in half with her own shield and then uses a statue to crush Lashana Lynch's Captain Marvel, which I don't think that would actually kill her unless if she did something in the film that stripped away Captain Marvel's powers. I can't remember, but what I do know is that, like, back during Endgame, as much as I don't care for Brie Larson's character, like, she tanked a headbutt from Thanos, and he had to resort to, like, ripping the Power Stone out of the Infinity Gauntlet to, like, completely knock her out. So, unless if they explained at some point that, like, the Illuminati members are weaker than their, like, I guess Earth 616 or Earth Prime variants, I don't think that just a mere statue would crush Lashana Lynch's character. But anyway, after that, like, Doctor Strange frees himself, and America gets freed. Meanwhile, Wanda kills Professor X, and I'm a little bit on the fence on this one because I do like that they brought back Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier. What I don't like is that they killed him off, and they killed him off so quickly, too. And, like, here's the way I see it. So, I've mentioned this before in a lot of videos, how it's mainly in horror movies, but it kind of, like, became really popular with Star Wars, right? Where, like, a franchise or, like, a movie series, they bring back fan favorite characters just to kill them off. And it seems like this movie is continuing that trend, unfortunately. Because as far as I know, Patrick Stewart was originally going to be done as Professor X back during Logan, and they already made a good send-off to both his character and Wolverine's. So if this is Patrick Stewart's final performance as Professor X, then honestly I would prefer that they use James McAvoy's Professor X instead, because like James is a younger guy. He's most likely going to play Charles Xavier in the MCU anyway. So, and I know that like they're different characters, like they're variants, as they say. But I just do not want like this to be Patrick Stewart's final performance as the character. And it's kind of similar to like Crisis on Infinite Earths, where like they had Kevin Conroy play a live action Bruce Wayne, but then they killed him off in about 5 minutes. And it's like I explained to people for that one, like I didn't mind them like making Bruce evil and then killing him. What I did care about was that they had Kevin Conroy play him, right? Like, if it was just some random guy playing Bruce Wayne, like, it would have been a lot easier. But since you have like since you have like a beloved actor who has played the character for years, and then you bring him back just to kill him just to kill him off, it just kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth, right? Like, I don't know. It's like if in like one of these newer movies, Top Gun Maverick, that's coming out later this month. It's like if they brought back Tom Cruise to play Maverick, and then at the end of the film, like they have him die. Like, why would you make a sequel 30 years later, bring back Tom Cruise just to kill him off, right? And like, again, this whole thing got popularized by the Star Wars movies where they killed off Harrison Ford, which, to their credit, Harrison Ford didn't want to do Star Wars anymore, like even when they made Empire Strikes Back. But then they killed off Mark Hamill, and then like unfortunately they had to kill Carrie Fisher because because she died like a year before The Last Jedi even came out. But my point still stands that like they brought back all those favorite characters just to kill them off again. And well, horror movies are like picking up on that like quite a lot. Like you see them all the time, like with the Halloween reboot films, with that crappy Netflix Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Crap, that's all I can think of right now. But my point still stands that like technically this is an MCU horror film, even though there aren't many scary scenes in there. But again, like, but there's still a point there that like, why bring back fan favorite characters with the actors that have played them the most just to end them? It makes no sense. Like, I don't know. Aside from that, the Illuminati was great, though. I just wish they didn't linger too much on that specific Earth. Because for a movie called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, they didn't go to a lot of different universes. Like, there was like that one scene in the trailer that shows like Strange in America going to like all these different dimensions, where they go to like a paint dimension, a cartoon dimension, like an old film noir dimension. But that's it. That's just like a blink and you miss it moment. And then they spend like a huge chunk of the runtime like just in the Illuminati's universe. And then they spend like the last, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes. I don't know, I didn't keep track. They spent the last 30, 45 minutes in like in that one other Earth that was shown in the trailers, the one that had like the evil Doctor Strange. So aside from that little tiny like 30-second scene at the beginning, they really only showed two other universes. Like one that's like exceptionally better than the MCU, the MCU main universe, and then one that's like obviously bad. I guess there's technically three if you want to count like the space between universes or world between worlds. I can't remember exactly which one they call it, but it was the one that had like the Book of Vishanti, which that was a useless MacGuffin because the minute they find it, Wanda destroys it. Unless if there's like another version of the book that they'll show in Doctor Strange 3. I don't know. But the horror sequences themselves, like they are few and far between. But Wanda is the reason for those horror scenes in the first place. Like, again, I already mentioned that scene where like she crawls out of a reflection and it's like straight out of the ring. There is a scene like in the Illuminati's universe, like after she slaughters all the members, where there's like a chase sequence where she's literally limping after Strange in America, and that universe's version of Christine Palmer, and it looks like it's a tribute to The Shining. I think. And like every time like they try to close a door on her, like she uses her powers to bust it open or at least hold it open. And like it all looked really cool, but then it kind of took me out of the movie where like the final door that's closed on her, like the trio literally just stands there and waits for her to appear again. And I know that Strange has a plan, because like he enacted it like right when she shows up, but everyone else, like he could have just said to them like, okay, run, I'll catch up. But I don't know. I thought it was a stupid decision for all of them to stay there. And speaking of stupid decisions, it was also pretty stupid on the Illuminati's part. First off, to know that Wanda Maximoff was the Scarlet Witch, and know that she was in possession of the Darkhold, and know that she was able to like use the power of dream walking, where like she could possess like the other Wanda. And they still said like, oh well, we can take care of her. No, you can't. And like even when Wanda does show up, like Mr. Fantastic, he still tries to scare Wanda by saying by basically telling her how Black Bolt will kill her, and that just gives her enough time to like just use his powers against him. So there's a bunch of decisions in this movie that were kind of stupid. Back to the whole thing about like going from universe to universe, though. If there's one thing that Crisis on Infinite Earths did better, though, like it was showcasing like all the different worlds in the multiverse. Like even like those blink and you miss it moments, like they were still there. But like just from the first 3 episodes of Crisis, like they're constantly hopping between universes. Like they like again, they go to that one universe where Batman is evil. They go to a universe where like they bring back Jonah Hex from Legends of Tomorrow. They even hop to the universe that like Lucifer is in, like from the Lucifer TV show. But they showcase a lot of like different worlds, and I get it that like technically Crisis was like 5 hours long. Well, no, it wasn't. Each episode was around 40 minutes. Let's see here. So each episode was around 40 minutes. So it was a little bit over. The final runtime was a little bit over 3 hours. So I get it. They could show a lot more, but then this movie still probably could have shown like more than just like the 2 universes that they primarily stayed in. So that was a little bit disappointing, and I will admit that is probably my fault for keeping my expectations way too high. But again, the movie's directed by Sam Raimi, so I was expecting more. And I was expecting more for the movie to be like, to have more horror sequences, because like, the movie doesn't have to be rated R, right? Like, Sam Raimi directed Drag Me to Hell, and that movie had a lot of scary sequences in it. But I don't know, but it is also the fault of the movie's marketing, because like in the very first trailer, they revealed that like Professor X was going to be in the movie. I mean, come on, they had Patrick Stewart's voice in it, and then like there was a later TV spot that actually showed his wheelchair, so like they weren't fooling anybody. Like everybody knew that Charles Xavier was going to be in the film in one way or another. And I've been seeing a lot of people talk about like, you just put your expectations up too high. You didn't temper them. Like you were constantly talking about like all the cameos that were gonna be in the film, and again going back to how like they revealed Charles Xavier in one of the very first trailers. I guarantee you, like, and I actually saw comments like this, like, on the trailer videos, that, like, if they were willing to show Charles Xavier in the trailer, then think about what else they have in the movie, but they don't want to reveal. And, well, a lot of the stuff that you see in the trailers is exactly what you get. Like, there isn't too much in the movie that that they withheld. Like if you were expecting, like, say, Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man or like Deadpool to show up, then you're gonna be heartbroken, because the only cameos that were there were all the Illuminati members, and that's it. Well, and it does have like a Bruce Campbell cameo, but like it's a Sam Raimi movie, so it kind of requires it. Like Campbell is basically the Stan Lee of Raimi films. But aside from Bruce Campbell, obviously, and the Illuminati members, and the mid-credits sequence, like there really aren't that many Easter eggs or cameos. Like, for a Multiverse of Madness, it does feel a little bit like watered down in like every single aspect, but it was nice though that like Raimi could still like put his like little signature stamp in there, like the crazy camera angles, the zoom ins, there are some pretty cool horror scenes, like just not as many as I was hoping. That final sequence of like Zombie Strange fighting Wanda was a great way to end the movie, to be honest. That whole sequence where he controls those ghosts, and like they're speaking in a voice that's similar to the Deadites from Evil Dead, where they go like, "Stephen Strange possessing a body is forbidden." Like then that was great, and I can't remember if they actually said this, but I think it would have been awesome if one of them actually said like, "We will swallow your soul." And like just that sequence alone, as well as the cameo with Bruce Campbell, it honestly made me kind of hope that somewhere down the line, like I don't know if like it's legal trouble or anything, but I'd love to see like Ash Williams from Evil Dead partner up with Doctor Strange and like fight zombies, because like because this isn't the first time that Sam Raimi has made a movie about an evil book. And I guess really the final expectation that I had, well, like my hope, was I was kind of hoping that Chthon would make an appearance, which he's the guy who like wrote the Darkhold, and he's the one who actually gave Wanda her powers in the comics. And they do have some demons who kind of look like Chthon, that use chaos magic later in the film, when Wanda actually finds like the Darkhold tower in on Mount Wundagore. But I was really hoping that like he would actually make an appearance. But then again, that would probably make the plot a little bit too much like Shang-Chi and the Legends of the Ten Rings, because like they already had a villain where the whole villain's motivation was like finding a loved one, and in doing so he inadvertently like unleashes like a dark magic monster onto the world, which I guess if they did that in the Multiverse of Madness, those movies would be like too similar, unfortunately. But I still would have loved to see him. Aside from that, there's not too much that I missed. Oh, that one sequence with the evil Doctor Strange. There's another. That's another like little Sam Raimi moment of like just like two versions of the same character fight each other. Like in Army of Darkness, it was Ash versus Evil Ash. In Spider-Man 3, it was technically Peter Parker versus Venom. And now in here, there's like an evil version of Doctor Strange that he fights, and he fights using music, which was completely crazy and like Evil Dead-esque, because like they've done some pretty crazy stuff in the Evil Dead universe, especially in the TV show. But that whole scene where they use magic, to like use music notes as a weapon, was just like was just completely goofy and crazy, and I just loved every second of it. So that's really it for the main movie. There were two post-credit scenes, which one of them featured Bruce Campbell, which was just, again, just classic Sam Raimi craziness. But then the mid-credit scene that like actually matters to the overall plot finally features the character of Clea from the comics. And shit. Hold on. Okay, so the mid-credit scene features the character of Clea from the comics, and she approaches Doctor Strange on the side of the street, and just tells him that like because of what he did, where he not only possessed a dead body but also like dreamwalked, he caused like an incursion, which is basically like two universes colliding. So then the two of them travel to the dark dimension, and right before that happens, like a third eye appears on Doctor Strange's head, which at the end of the film, like Strange discovers that he has it, and like he starts screaming in the middle of the street, which again, pure Raimi moment. Reminded me of the very first Evil Dead. Where like the Kandarian demon like just possesses Ash. Which I do remember some people commenting about how like it's a little bit weird that like Strange is just screaming out loud about having that eye, and then it cuts to the mid-credit scene where he's apparently cool with it. I don't think that that happens immediately after he discovers that he has the eye from reading the Darkhold. I think that scene with Clea might happen like somewhere during the first 20 to 30 minutes of Doctor Strange 3. Or like think of it like the post-credit scene from Ant-Man, right? Where it featured Steve, Bucky, and Sam. And Sam talks about how he knows a guy, in referencing that whole fight sequence between Sam Wilson and Scott Lang. I think I think the post-credit scene of Multiverse of Madness is similar to that, where the Ant-Man post-credit scene, like, it took place during the middle of Captain America's Civil War. The post-credit scene of Multiverse of Madness is probably going to be, like, during the first third of the third movie. And, like, from the very beginning, like, either it's going to start with Strange, like, discovering that he has that eye and he screams, and, like, at first he's, like, terrified that, like, he'll become evil, but then he slowly realizes that, like, oh, he just has to control it, or he's cool with it from the get-go, but they're not going to, like, leave that issue addressed, like, off-screen. Well, actually, that's a lie. There's a good chance that they might, because I forgot, when Strange is talking with, like, the alternate universe Mordo, he mentions how, like, his universe's Mordo made it his life's work to kill him. And as far as I know, like, he wouldn't actually know that, because what Mordo was doing and, like, stealing that one sorcerer's magic in the post-credit scene, Strange didn't know that happened. At least I don't think he did. So that means that, like, they basically established the whole rivalry between Strange and Mordo, and Mordo's motivation, and Strange knowing about Mordo's plan off-screen between the first Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. And honestly, if that's the case, then they probably should have made a second movie with Mordo was the villain before getting to Multiverse of Madness. Or at the very least, they should have Mordo be the villain of the third film, because I don't know, they haven't really. It'll be stupid to just leave that plot point just in the air, and unfortunately, the MCU has done that with a lot of plot points, especially in their earlier films. And speaking of, I do think it's a little bit interesting that that Mysterio, back during Spider-Man Far From Home, he said that, like, their universe was designated as Earth 616, which it was found out that, like, he was lying. But then when they get to the Illuminati universe, like, that world's version of Christine Palmer reveals that, like, no, it's true, their universe is 616. So I'm not sure if that's basically saying that, like, Mysterio just had, like, a lucky guess, or if, like, the scientists, like, just coincidentally decided to call it that. So that was pretty cool. But I think it's after 3 o'clock. I'd better stop rambling and probably get ready for work. So I guess to summarize, like, if you're a fan of, like, Evil Dead and Sam Raimi films, there are going to be some, like, horror sequences that you're going to enjoy. Unfortunately, it is few and far between. If you're a fan of Doctor Strange and the MCU in general, like, you're going to like this film. And if you're a fan of, like, the X-Men Fantastic Four, just know that, like, there's going to be some cameos that you're going to enjoy. You're probably, and depending on how much of a fan you are, like, you're probably not going to like that they kill them off, but oh well. At least they're not the main MCU versions. But if you were hoping for, like, a hardcore horror film, like, that I was kind of hoping for, well, it's not too much of a horror film, like, more of like an Indiana Jones MacGuffin movie, kind of, with some horror sequences, kind of like in Raiders of the Lost Ark or Temple of Doom. But definitely temper your expectations. Like, way more than I should have, like, despite what the trailers are showing. So, aside from that, it is an entertaining movie, just slightly disappointing for me. But that's all that I have really for this film. Definitely go check it out, but just manage your expectations. Don't do what I did. Anyway, have a good night, guys. And to those of you who get up early like I do, have a good morning.